Ready. Play.
I do want to talk about Swiatek specifically. Like, we've talked a bit about the rivalry, we've talked a bit about them moving ahead. This wasn't a bad loss for her. Like, okay, her streak in Stuttgart is done. It was nice while it lasted. But I have noticed there hasn't been as much deconstruction of this loss compared to others. And I'm wondering if it's because of the status Rybakina has as a rival to her at the minute in 2024 and sort of becoming one of the leading members of the pack. She's kind of, if anyone's going to beat her, Rybakina would be one of that small group of players that's expected to, or like it's less of a, it's the expected challengers. But also, as we said, like Rybakina has caused her problems in the past. But I don't know if you have any other thoughts on why maybe there's not been too deep an analysis on this Swiatek loss.
You can probably find somewhere a deep analysis of this loss, but at the same time, it's like Swiatek is the queen of clay at the moment, for sure. Yes, but a loss for Swiatek, I'd say. I don't know. Do you think we're projecting too much of Rafa Nadal on her, even though we try so hard not to? But because, like, I don't know, like it's just like you prefer personally, yeah.
I don't, because she's her own person, really. Yeah. She's not Nadal. It's a very different field to Nadal. She's not necessarily streets ahead of the pack on clay like Nadal was.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Also, Nadal did occasionally lose to Roger and Novak on clay. Heck, he lost a couple of times.
Yeah. So yeah, I feel like it's no use to like get so shocked about this loss in Stuttgart. It is a tune-up event for Roland Garros. They do not have 3 Masters 1000, so most players do end up. So that's why Stuttgart's draw gets like so packed. To be fair, because there could be a 1000 event like this week or before on clay, but there isn't. So this tournament is important, but at the same time, it's just like. It's gonna happen. She's gonna lose on clay regardless. It's Rybakina. She plays well. They're not that different in terms of like how their levels are at. Like, and I 100% and agree with you. Like, I don't put any of Rafa Nadal and Swiatek except for maybe her inspiration that she gets on him, like in terms of how she approaches the game and things like that. But she is a different player. She's a different person entirely. So just because she has a speedy forehand and is good on clay doesn't make it like Nadal. So I think that overanalyzing this and getting super shocked over this, like it's not productive. It's I don't think it matters. Like the loss is a loss. She played really well. And there's still another 2 tournaments, another entire month of clay court tennis to be played before we hit the clay courts in Paris again. So and that's why it's going to matter most. So yeah.
And of course, you know, we haven't even hit true clay yet, which we will in Rome. So there is that perspective. Also, since 2022, Swiatek has lost 3 clay matches. Sorry, 4. All of them have gone 3 sets. Like, she's really, really hard to beat on that. And even then, I'd say she's lost 3 matches because I'm not counting that retirement. And that's Garcia, Sabalenka, and Rybakina, all of whom are players who would cause her problems anyway with the way they are, with the way they approach the game, and just how good they can be, especially Sabalenka and Rybakina. So I agree with you. I think it's too early to say anything. The rest of the clay season, she'll be a factor. It's probably also too early in her career to compare her to other like WTA clay greats like Evert, Graf, Enan, Selesh, Sanchez Vicario. Those are the names off the top of my head. Like, that are, I know Serena and Sharapova were good on clay, particularly Serena. But the names I just mentioned are probably the most strongly associated with the surface.
She's just kind of caught us by surprise, Swiatek, over the past few years on clay. That like the hype is real, but yeah, I don't think on that note, actually, I've mentioned the 500 and the Stuttgart level. And you said like we are still about to hit real clay soon. But how much do you put like in terms of stock about like this tournament in Stuttgart over the years in terms of like success at the French Open?
I think there's a relevance to it. I think I always look at who the semi-finalists are for a potential deep Roland Garros run. And certainly, like at least one of the Stuttgart semi-finalists has made an impact. But I certainly wouldn't read too much beyond that, sort of like winners sort of dead set on, especially since, only really Swiatek and Sharapova have done that since the tournament's been in inception.
Yeah.
Do you know what? This might be a little bit of a tangent, but I do want to cover this because there's a question I kind of put out there, a little bit of one of my leading questions on Twitter. And I kind of made it very generic, but smart people like Vance realized I was talking about Swiatek. And there's been a lot of talk about Swiatek's matchups with big hitters like Rybakina. Is her issue with big hitters unique to her?
I think she has she's a bit more prone to losing to big hitters. I think maybe an issue of like where she places herself on the. There you go. There's a bunch of stats, but
that's what I'm saying. Like the two leading players since the Australian Open.
Yeah. So yeah, to answer your question, I don't think it's like particular to her. Some players do have a bit of more of affinity with like the big hitters just by sheer game style. Some players are more like comfortable just redirecting pace, or they even prefer that a person actually hits the ball harder at them so that they can kind of counter it and just be more of like on the defensive, and then just kind of use the pace against it. Swiatek is a player that ends up trying to create more pace, even though she does it with more spin. But she also kind of gets glued too much into the baseline and has all the problem with the extreme grip on the forehand. I think that her backhand has dropped quite a bit short at times, especially this week. I'm not sure exactly why, but it's maybe she wasn't. I know I felt like Swiatek played at the extreme best of her abilities, but she is still Swiatek, right? So in terms of losing to big hitters, like power is power. If somebody can blow you off, like can just kind of hit winners all day long, virtually anyone is going to struggle. There isn't much else to say. So it's just like a person that has like a huge serve. Take John Isner on the ATP side, Serena Williams even like on the WTA. Serena even later in her career, moving and playing as well as she did, got out of trouble so many times almost solely because she has that power available to her. It doesn't really matter if you're a Radvanska who just kind of like thrives on like just pushing the ball back on and recreating, like redirecting pace. Big hitters tend to have a good time on court if they're playing well. Basically, no matter who the opponent. I think the problem is like mostly the big hitters match up better against most people than other players have, matchups against the big hitters. I don't know. I feel like it's just harder to find a matchup where a big hitter isn't, comfortable most of the time.
Yeah, it would usually be against someone who can absorb or redirect pace. You're talking someone like Kerber at her peak, or someone who has enough variety to kind of diffuse it, like Barty used to, Mukova can do, Vondrousova can do to an extent. I think I agree with you that everyone has problems with it. We obsess about it with Swiatek because she's the top of the game, and we analyze every single loss because we're trying to understand how that happened. In a way that I don't know if we did with a lot of other players. Certainly, I don't remember digging into anything like that with Serena or even with the big three on the ATP side.
Yeah, I mean, all when we put like these guys back on the analysis when on the board, it's always a little bit harder just because they're legends and they have like everything in their arsenal, so like, it's a little bit different. So But yeah, I think hitting hard with patience, which is kind of, I feel like it's essentially like Rybakina's trademark. It's a really good combo. Like no matter who you play against, you can always try to. I believe you can always find a way if you can do that. Somebody mentioned in the comments Ostapenko being Iga's kryptonite, but I think it's a bit of a, that's its own matchup, I would say.
Yeah. And you know, Ostapenko was a name like Owen replied to my tweet, and we basically came to the conclusion Ostapenko is Ostapenko, and she can hit anyone off the court. But there are some players that she just does what she wants. She hits the same way whoever she's playing.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, it's kind of, you can read a lot into it. I guess, and this is me kind of saying something as a fan and kind of sharing a little bit of opinion what I enjoy about tennis. I am impressed by big hitters. They're not my favorite style to watch. And so I am usually rooting for the ones who can bring something a little bit different to combat that. And actually, on the whole, Iga Swiatek does that pretty well. She still beats more big hitters than she loses to, regardless of surface. But like other players, like Mukova, like fantastic player. Hope she comes back soon. Like, well, Barty was great to watch. I love watching Fernandez and her ability to redirect. Like that was just on full display at that US Open. This is a little bit of a monologue from me on the subject. That's kind of just putting that out there as you know, big hitters might be more likely to be successful, but I think I personally appreciate the ones who manage to find success without necessarily having to go for all power. Like Swiatek is all about that spin, which gives her the pace to hit through the court.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.